David had no idea that a single phone call would become the most terrifying moment of his life. What this means? Not because someone had died. His job loss was not the cause. Nevertheless, after 15 years had passed since his daughter first answered the call for the family, she returned home to her father. "Daddy," she whispered. "Who are those people?" David froze. "What people?" "The people who keep calling in saying we owe them money." He looked at his wife across the kitchen. She already knew. The secret was finally out. It took David almost 3 years to realize that everything was okay. Each day he would leave his morning shirt on the desk. While cutting the lawn each weekend, he always smiled at his neighbors. He always found a method for putting presents under the tree at Christmas. To most, they were the perfect American family. But behind the front door, they were drowning. They had not paid their mortgage in 3 months. The total credit card debt they had was over $44,000. The total of 2 personal loans was almost reached. Medical bills kept arriving. David was unable to make any money as the interest increased every month. The worst aspect was not the debt. It was the shame. In the living room, David would sit alone and gaze at the ceiling every night after they had gone to sleep, inquiring about the means to turn into the person he had pledged not to become. He was not reckless. He was not lazy. He refrained from purchasing costly sports cars. He was not gambling. He had made a succession of small choices, and then, assuming he would rectify everything in the following month? But next month never came. What David did not know, he believed that 5 uncomplicated choices could completely transform his life. Not overnight. Not in 30 days, one decision at a time. For those following this today, those 5 choices have the potential to alter your own. David's story may seem familiar, but there you go. Are you? Many people carry financial stress on their minds in silence. For those who believe this story is valuable, consider liking this video and becoming a subscriber to Ego Money. It facilitates the creation of more narrative videos that convey real-life financial problems in practical ways. Lessons you can use. When David believed he had achieved dominance, there was one number on his spreadsheet that would leave him speechless. A single credit card was charging such high interest that it was quietly canceling almost all payments he made. The second lesson, and a decision that would change the course of history, would be made after the discovery. Direction of his family's future. That night, David was unable to get any sleep. Whenever his eyes were closed, he saw numbers. Not lottery numbers, not winning numbers. Credit card balances, mortgage payments, due dates, interest rates. By 3:30 in the morning, he abandoned his attempts to sleep. He remained calm in his bed, trying to keep Emily company. The house was silent. A soft hump from the refrigerator filled the darkness. He walked into the kitchen, uncovered the chest amidst the microwave, and stared at it. For almost a minute, he did not move. Inside that drawer, hidden under restaurant menus and old birthday cards the envelopes were densely packed without any openings. White envelopes, brown envelopes. Some were neatly folded. The front of some had red letters spelled out. Final notice. Payment overdue. Immediate response required. David was aware of their nature. Despite his efforts, he couldn't open them up. If they were sealed, he was the reason. He was able to pretend that things were not the way they wanted them to be. He reached toward the pile, then stopped. His hand trembled. He pulled it back. "I will do it tomorrow." He would be repeating the sentence with equal repetition. For almost 18 months. Tomorrow. 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 The problem was, the next day had quietly transitioned into the previous year. The next afternoon, on his way back from work, David stopped at a grocery store. He received a brief list from Emily through her text message. Milk, eggs, bread, chicken. Nothing expensive, nothing unusual. While walking through the aisles, he was mentally thinking about how much money to save. Not because he wanted to, because he'd to. Every object he added to his cart appeared more burdensome than usual. At the checkout counter, the cashier smiled politely. "That'll be $148.26. David placed his debit card into the terminal. For 2 long seconds, nothing happened. His heartbeat quickened. Then, approved. Holding his breath, he didn't realize what thought remained. With the bags in hand, his phone buzzed. It was a banking alert. Monday's automatic mortgage payment. David froze. He made the calculations in his head. Due to the groceries he had just bought, his mortgage payment would be more than the account balance. He remained motionless as people surrounded him. It was not the groceries, it was not the mortgage, it was the realization. Purchasing food for his family had become an unnecessary expense. It felt like a financial commitment. That evening, Emily noticed something was wrong. "You've been silent since dinner." "I am fine." She smiled gently. "No, you're exhausted." David looked away. Her talent for reading him was unparalleled. She sat down on the sofa with him. Neither of them spoke. Silence can be the first line of defense against truth. Finally, David was frightened by the question which Emily asked. "Are we in trouble?" The room suddenly felt smaller. David stared at the floor. This is the first time in years that he stopped protecting his secret. He nodded. "I believe we are more trouble than I can put under control." Emily did not shout. She did not accuse him. She reached for his hand. Afterward, we'll work on it together." David closed his eyes. The tears that had been preventing him from crying for months finally came. Not because he was weak, the act of feigning strength had become wearisome. The following Saturday, Emily walked into the garage. An old folding chair was where David sat. Around him, there were many envelopes that covered the concrete floor. His appearance was that of a man working on parts of an unsolvable puzzle. She quietly sat beside him. Both of them refrained from speaking. One by one, David opened every envelope. Some made his stomach sink. The other person made him shake his head in shock. The starting cost for a single credit card was as low as $3,000. Due to years of minimum payments, the balance had increased to almost $9,000. A different card had an interest rate that was too high to lower the majority of his monthly payment. The balance at all. Every envelope had a consistent narrative. Not one huge mistake. Hundreds of small ones. Hours passed. Stacks of paper and the dining table disappeared. The loan statements, medical bills, credit card statements, collection letters. Emily reached for a yellow legal pad. David opened his laptop. Together, they began writing everything down. Every balance, every monthly payment, every interest rate, every due date. Silence was achieved solely through the clicking of computer keys. When they finished, David stared at the screen. His overall debt was not as high as he had anticipated. It was not lower. It was actually higher. $61,842.17. For a moment, his shoulders dropped. Emily watched him carefully. Then something unexpected happened. David smiled. Not a big smile, just enough to surprise her. "I recognize the symmetry," Emily declared. "What?" "The one you get when have finally found out." David nodded slowly. "For 2 years, I have been battling a problem that was beyond my sight." He revisited the spreadsheet. "But now, I have finally figured out what it is called." That night, for the first time in several months, David slept. Not because the debt had been eliminated. The reason was not due to someone saving him. His bank balance was unaltered, but something inside him had. For the first time, he was not hiding anymore. And sometimes, the initial step towards exiting a hole, by activating the light, one can observe its true depth. According to David, the toughest test had been completed. He was wrong. The very next morning, a single number on the spreadsheet caught his attention. He was being quietly charged over $400 in interest per month on a single credit card. He'd been making payments. His debt was almost non-existent as the money did not reduce it. The discovery would oblige David to make the most arduous financial decision of his life. The moment when everything began to transform. The spreadsheet was continuously being observed by David. What could it do? It was nearly midnight. Emily was already sleeping. It was only the laptop screen that provided light in the room. One by one, down the debt descending list, his eyes were fixed. The mortgage, the car loan, the medical bills, the personal loan. Then, his eyes stopped. Credit card #3, balance, $8,964.21. Interest rate, 29.99%, minimum payment, $278. David frowned. He grabbed a calculator. Something did not seem right. He typed the numbers once, then again, then a third time. The answer remained consistent on all occasions. Nearly $224 was not being utilized to lower the debt through each monthly payment. It was disappearing into interest. He reclined in his seat. It's been going there a while now. For nearly 3 years, he had assumed he was improving. The credit card company would receive loyal payments from him on a monthly basis. Every month, he would experience some solace. but the balance barely moved. The task was similar to attempting to empty a swimming pool. With a coffee cup, someone kept the hose on for a while. The next morning, David drove to work in a state of silence. His favored radio station was active. He remained silent. His thoughts were confined to one question: how had I missed this? During lunch, he chose to sit alone in his truck instead of eating with his colleagues. He opened the calculator again. If he only made the minimum payments as promised, then it would take him years to pay for the card. Years. Thousands of dollars in interest. Amount that his children could have used to pay for college. Over their retirement. Their future. Instead, every month, it was disappearing without a trace. That evening, the statements were spread out by David across the dining table. Emily entered with 2 coffee cups in hand. She looked at the papers. I thought we finished. David shook his head. No, I think we have only just started. The credit card statement was the focus of his attention. Look at this. Emily leaned closer. What is this? Using his pen, David circumscribed the interest rate. This card is not assisting us. It's trapping us. She studied the statement. Every cent we receive. Interest, as per David's conclusion. Neither of them spoke. The realization grew in strength like a storm cloud. The following Saturday, David went to see his elder sibling, Michael. Michael was not rich. An expensive truck was not part of his driving experience. He did not possess an oversized dwelling, but he'd something David admired. Peace. With 2 cups of coffee on the back porch, they sat down. For a long time, David said nothing. Finally, he shifted the spreadsheet across the table. Please take a moment to read this. Michael adjusted his glasses. He did not interrupt. He did not judge. He simply read. 5 minutes later, he deposited the papers back onto the table quietly. What's the surprise of a stranger? David shook his head. What? You're aware that you took this long to inform someone. David looked away. I was embarrassed. Michael smiled. Is debt a source of great love? David shrugged. Silence. It grows best when you don't speak. David expected a lecture. Instead, Michael asked him one question. Michael slowly shook his head. No. You'd feel better. But nothing would change. David frowned. I do not understand. Michael reached for a notepad. He drew 5 circles. Each circle represented one debt. Next, he shaded the most miniature of the circles. You can put a bit of water in each bucket, right? None of them fills. You fill in one bucket then. Oh Lord. You finally create space. David stared at the drawing. It looked almost too simple. So you are saying? Michael nodded. Ignore waging 5 battles in one go. Win one. Then the next. And then the next. David revisited his spreadsheet. For the first time, it appeared unlikely that the mountain would be unattainable. The final indication was that it resembled something to climb. One step at a time. That night, David and Emily reached a settlement. Reversed the trend of paying random amounts to every debt. To keep them up to date, they would continue to make minimum payments on all. Nevertheless, any additional. Every overtime shift. Every tax refund. Every bonus. A priority balance would be removed at first, followed by another one. It was not dramatic. It was not exciting. There were no overnight miracles. Just a plan. It has been years since they had one. The first month, almost nothing changed. The second month, the balances moved at a slightly faster pace. By the 4th month, a small credit card was no longer available. Upon receiving the final payment, David gazed at his screen. Paid in full. Just 3 words. But they felt like freedom. Emily hugged him. It's only one card. David smiled. I know. But it's proof. Give me evidence that we are making strides forward. At that point, David was unaware of. However, clearing the initial debt yielded a more valuable end than financial gain for him. It gave him belief. The difference between quitting and is often found in the belief. And continuing. The truth is that progress does not always begin with a big debt load. Leap. There are instances where the initial move requires a distinct and unwavering choice. Ego Money subscribers can also share this video and follow David's journey if you want to get inspired. Someone who needs hope. Our weekly stories feature practical examples that can help us understand money, memorable, and worth acting on. David believed that the most challenging part was in the background. He was unaware that an unexpected call from work would compromise his efforts, and all of them. Take on the risk and make him learn the 4th lesson in the most painful way possible. The first victory felt incredible. One credit card was gone. This is the first time in years that David and Emily celebrated. Not with an expensive dinner, not with a vacation. A mere 2 hamburgers from the nearby eatery. The pair ate in the parking lot while sitting in silence. Emily smiled. You know? What? I've never seen you smile like this. David laughed. I can't remember what it felt like. For a brief moment, life felt normal again. Maybe, just maybe, they were finally turning the corner. There. They both remained uncertain about what would happen on Monday morning. Monday arrived with gray skies. When his manager arrived at the office, David had barely gotten up. David, you've got a minute? His voice had a distinct quality to it. Too serious. He was accompanied by David to a small conference room. The door closed. His manager folded his hands. You've probably heard what's going on. David shook his head. The company is restructuring. His heart began pounding. We are removing some jobs. Silence. But I worked hard to keep everyone safe. Another pause. I am sorry. All the others went unheard of for David. The room suddenly felt distant, like he was underwater. After 15 years, his job was gone. He emerged with a cardboard box in hand, a coffee mug, a family photo, 2 notebooks. Everything else was left behind. As he reached his car, he sat in the car without starting the engine. The parking lot slowly emptied. Employees drove home. One by one. David stayed. His eyes were fixed on the steering wheel. Then he laughed. Not because anything was funny, because sometimes life becomes so unbelievable. Laughing feels easier than crying. That evening, Emily was aware of the problem before David even walked in the door. You came home early. The cardboard box was placed by David on the kitchen table. She looked at it, then at him. They let me go. They slipped through his lips. Emily covered her face. Neither of them spoke. The children were upstairs. They were unable to hear them. David walked into the garage, closed the door, and ultimately allowed himself to break. The next morning, he opened the laptop again. This time, the spreadsheet looked different. Every payment, every due date, every balance. Then, another matter emerged to resolve. No paycheck. David rubbed his temples. It's back where we were at first. Emily looked across the table. No, we are not. He frowned. What do you mean? She pointed at the spreadsheet. 6 months ago, you didn't even know these numbers. Today, you know every dollar. You have a plan. You've already established its effectiveness. Our progress is not being slowed by this. The plan needs to be modified. David stared at her. She was right. 6 months earlier, they would have been destroyed had he not lost his job. Now, it was another obstacle. Not the end. The following week, David swallowed his pride. He worked as a driver for commuting during the day, delivered groceries in the evening, picked up weekend handyman jobs. It was not glamorous. Sometimes he worked 14-hour days, sometimes 18. He was believed to be doing well by friends. There were no indications that he was only trying to keep the lights on. One Saturday afternoon, during the delivery of groceries to an elderly woman, she smiled and said, "You have the same qualities as my husband." David laughed. He said, "Was he always the one carrying groceries?" She smiled. No. He never thought of doing honest work. Those words stuck with David for the entire day. Honest work. In spite of what it may have looked like. Weeks turned into months. Hundreds of resumes were distributed to David. Some companies never replied. The first interview resulted in him being rejected by some. Each rejection hurt, but something had changed. He no longer felt victimized. In his eyes, he was a man who could solve, one decision at a time. One rainy Thursday, his phone rang. 3 weeks prior, he would have had a conversation with. The position is now open for candidates. David closed his eyes. His wage was lower than that of his first job, but it was enough. More importantly, it was a fresh start. That evening, he sat with Emily on the back porch. The sun was setting. Neither of them said much. Finally, David broke the silence. What is causing me to feel scared? Emily looked over. What? Had I not been terminated from my job, and I could probably never have changed? Emily smiled softly. Sometimes, life doesn't interfere with our plans. It redirects them. David nodded. For the first time, he understood. He had not solely been debt-ridden. His belief that an increased salary could be sufficient to solve all financial problems was unfounded. Over the next year, their plan was maintained by David and Emily. The arrival of his new income prompted them to resist inflation in their lifestyle. They persisted in driving their identical automobile. They packed lunches. They terminated subscriptions they had not utilized. The additional cost was purposeful. Not because they were afraid. The knowledge they acquired was of immense value. Money without a plan disappears. A purposeful use of money can result in a state of freedom. One crisp autumn morning, David opened his banking app. His emergency fund had reached $10,000. A year earlier, he had paid off one credit card. Now, his first experience in adulthood, his savings were secured by money. He smiled. Not because he felt rich. However, he eventually felt secure. During that time, David believed he knew the concept of money. Yet, he had to learn one last lesson. The lesson was not centered around credit card issues, interest rates, or budgets. The issue had a much deeper root cause, an attitude that silently distinguishes those who remain in debt, those that build up lasting riches. The key lesson that David learned throughout his entire journey would be, 3 years passed, not 3 weeks, not 3 months, 3 years. Had David's life been viewed from an outside perspective, it's improbable that they detected anything noteworthy. He carried on driving the same 10-year-old SUV. His lunch was still packed for him to use at work. He and his family persisted with uncomplicated vacations instead of extravagant excursions. There were no expensive watches, no brand-new sports car, no mansion on a hill. Yet something extraordinary had happened. Then he was something very, very much different, David. On a crisp October morning, the trees outside had started to turn orange and red maple. While David was making coffee, Emily heard her call from the front porch. "What happened? David, you should go see this." He walked outside. Mail carrier had just departed. There was a single envelope on the porch. White, plain, no red letters, no warning stamps. No big letters asking for payment right away. An old company logo in the corner. David picked it up. This time, his hands remained unmovable. 3 years earlier, it was likely to have been concealed in a kitchen drawer by him. Today, he opened it before entering again. Emily watched him carefully. He unfolded the letter. The pages were dominated by his eyes. Then they stopped. For a long moment, the speaker was silenced. Emily smiled nervously. "What does it say?" David looked up. The tears in his eyes were overwhelming. Not tears of fear, tears of relief. He handed her the letter. 4 words were displayed in bold letters across the top. Account paid in full. The final credit card. The last debt. Gone. His arms were wrapped in Emily. Neither of them spoke. They did not need to. Some accomplishments are too impressive to be enumerated. That evening, the family celebrated by savoring homemade pizza. No expensive restaurant, no lavish party, just chuckling around the dinner table. Noah looked at his father. "Dad, what's the reason behind your daily smile?" David laughed. "Today is a day I have been waiting for." His daughter tilted her head. "Have you experienced a positive outcome while on the job?" David looked at Emily, then back at the kids. "I remember saying, we can't always buy everything." Both children nodded. "Well, we sustained our sound choices. And today, they finally paid off." His daughter smiled. "Are we currently prosperous?" David chuckled. "No, we are free." Later that night, David sat alone on the porch. On the same porch where he would once wonder if. The exact spot where he would cry upon losing his job. On the same porch, he would contemplate whether life would be satisfactory. Now, the silence felt different, peaceful. He reflected on the man he had been, an individual who believed that an increased salary would be sufficient to solve all problems. An individual who avoided paying bills, a man who confused money with achievement, a man who perceived that seeking aid was a sign of weakness. He barely recognized him anymore. A week later, David was introduced to his brother Michael through a coffee meeting. While sitting, Michael smiled. "So, how does it feel?" After that, David stirred his coffee, then answered quietly. "In the past, I believed that debt was the issue." Michael raised an eyebrow. "It wasn't. It was me." Michael smiled. "What do you mean?" David leaned back. "Despite my efforts, I was still able to fix my finances. I wanted different results. When they make the same decisions." Michael nodded. "That's something most people can't even imagine." David looked around the cafe. Youngster and couple sit nearby, arguing over a stack of bills. He observed the man's expression, the fear, the shame, the exhaustion. It reminded him of himself. 3 years ago, he stood up, walked over, and simply said, "Your situation is a mystery to me. Nevertheless, hold on. There's a way out." The man looked surprised. David smiled, then quietly walked away. The truth is, David's story is not unique. Millions of people wake up every morning with the burden of debt on their minds. Others keep it a secret from their families. Certain individuals hide it from their companions. It is hidden from some by themselves. You are not bound to debt. Your next decision does. Due to his discovery of a hidden investment, David was not able to flee. He was not the winner of the lottery. He was not a millionaire overnight. His decision to flee was due to his commitment to confront reality, devise a plan, remain consistent, and adapt to life's circumstances. The process of changing financial habits and building new ones was done day by day. These 5 choices changed his life forever. And they change yours too. The hidden 5 lengths of David's story. Unless you've noticed it, David never followed any magic formula. Instead, his journey revealed 5 timeless principles. Face reality. Open the envelopes. Know your numbers. Stop feeding high-interest debt. Identify the exact location of your funds. Focus your efforts. Build up momentum by paying off a single debt with determination and staying current. On the others. Adapt when life changes. A setback is not the end of your journey. Adjusting your behavior beyond your earnings. Achieving lasting financial independence requires a consistent approach and dedication. These are not shortcuts. These are habits that grow stronger with each passing day. If David's story evoked thoughts of your own struggles or gave you hope for someone dear, what would that be like? Share this video with them. The encouragement to take the first step can be just as valuable as the initial push. The strategy itself. We recommend Ego Money as a means of financial education that involves sharing stories. The topics we explore in our talk revolve around practical experiences that teach us valuable lessons about money, investing, and wealth creation, and financial freedom. Prior to departure, I would like you to write me, which moment in David's story left the biggest impression on you? What was it about? Comment below to share your thoughts. You never know when your story will inspire someone else to begin theirs. Until next time, remember, one moment cannot create wealth, period. The small decisions you make are the foundation of its existence. This is Ego Money. Stay tuned for the next story.